The Hard Fall is one of New England's toughest adventure races. The 2024 edition of this race started from a remote spot in the town of Rowe, Massachusetts, then moving northward through 10 grueling stages, finally ending at Mount Snow in Dover, Vermont. Under cloud cover and intermittent raindrops, the teams began the race with an 8-mile, 15-checkpoint Rogaine trek through dense and steep forest land. They would need to be aware of their pace, however, as arriving too early at the next stage would mean waiting until a daily dam release on the Deerfield River. As the sun peeked through the clouds and the temperatures rose, teams completed this stage with a refreshing swim across the river before entering Transition Area 1. Nice work. Earlier this morning, the teams had just a short time before dawn to put together a plan for the next 26.5 hours. Adventure racing requires careful strategy, as teams must navigate the entire course using only map and compass.
Yeah, so it's a big course, it's a long course, so we have to be really strategic about which points we get and be really efficient. There's some interesting strategy involved with the pack raft trip, so that's going to be a lot of fun, kind of deciding how we want to tackle that and what we want to do with our boats. So yeah, the main strategy for us is just to nav as clean as possible, and we've mapped a lot of options for points that we may have to drop later in the race, because it's a big course, and based on our estimates, it's probably not clearable.
Every section has something that looks interesting, so it's my hope is that every leg we do, we focus on being efficient, but also doing all the fun bits. I want to do all the fun stuff.
Stage 2 was an 11-mile paddle timed with a dam release that creates Class 1 and 2 rapids. Teams used inflatable pack rafts to complete this stage. Pack rafts are durable, inflatable boats similar to kayaks, and they're known as extremely capable whitewater craft. They're also highly portable. Once the teams are finished with the paddling section, they'll simply deflate the ultralight rafts and pack them away for the next adventure. At Transition Area 2, teams came off the water and made quick work of moving their gear and changing over to mountain bikes for the first bike stage of the race, a 7-mile all-uphill route to Pelham Lake. By this time, a close race at the front of the field was taking shape. Canadian team The Rivals, comprised of Matthew LeMay and Joseph Ward, were first out of the transition area with a highly efficient switch to their bikes. American team Strong Machine, made up of Cliff White, Kate White, Glenn Lewis, and Jason Erkfitz, were in and out of transition just moments later. Stage 4 was divided into 2 parts, a flat-water stand-up paddleboard around Pelham Lake to collect 3 checkpoints, and a more intense Rogaine trek section in the adjacent forest land. Teams with multiple navigators took advantage of the ability to split up during the trek and gather checkpoints more quickly before making another transition back to bikes. Stand-up paddleboarding, or SUP as it's called, was an unfamiliar discipline for many racers, even those from top teams who were not immune to balance issues. Others with years of experience on the board seemed quite comfortable on the lake. The serene lake at sunset was just a brief respite, however. In front of racers was an even longer bike ride, with even more elevation than the last one. From here, they made their way to the Harriman Reservoir to complete what would be a pivotal section of the race. In darkness, the teams pressed on through Stage 6, 15 checkpoints set across the Harriman Reservoir that could be accessed by pack raft and foot. There would be many strategic decisions to make here, and as is often the case, large chunks of time can be gained or lost. One of the great equalizers in adventure racing is the dark of night. All teams move more slowly, whether they know it or not. Sleep-deprived navigators are more prone to errors, and terrain features are masked in darkness. As the cold and damp from the previous paddle stages sets in, it can be difficult to find the motivation to keep pushing through a course like this. Some racers, it seems, got back on their bikes out of pure will. The final stages of the hard fall were the ultimate test of grit and determination for teams that attempted to visit every section of the course. The teams have been racing flat out for more than 20 hours at this point, and the course is relentless. But so are they. With a constant eye on fueling and hydration, teams look to stay warm in the darkness by pushing ever onward. After a tough gravel road climb into Transition Area 7, teams were greeted with a highly challenging trek stage set across brutally steep and thickly vegetated terrain in the Dover Town Forest. Many teams opted to forgo this section entirely. Teams finally had the chance to go downhill on Stage 9, but only for the mandatory route. This bike stage included a few optional points that offered over 2,300 feet of elevation gain. The penultimate stage, an 18-mile mountain bike scramble to the finish, would take teams nearly 3 hours to clear before arriving at the final transition area. The Stage 10 trek was set across the snowless summer terrain of Mount Snow in Dover, Vermont. With 11 more checkpoints hidden on and off ski trails and dwindling time, teams had to choose which points to attack and which ones to leave before returning to the finish. After nearly 26 hours of racing, Team Strong Machine and Team Rivals both entered the final transition area within 1 minute of each other, setting off on the final trek in the pouring rain. The winning team of an adventure race is the one that collects the most checkpoints within the allotted time, and the Canadians' Team Rivals took the overall win by just 1 point over the Americans' Team Strong Machine, who claimed the premier co-ed division title. Adventure racing is one of the toughest events imaginable, and the hard fall lived up to its name. All the teams who dared to toe the start line at this race can count themselves as some of the most extreme athletes in sport.